Harvey's Hot Takes with Bryan Hayes, the host of Overdrive. My son and I were cracking up at the guys on Overdrive Monday. They were talking about sandwiches. It was great radio. And Pierre LeBrun was also on the show Monday. And Pierre LeBrun told you guys, Bryan, that Joe Pavelski, one of the 5 candidates given in-person interviews for the Leafs head coaching position, this is a guy who everyone in hockey seems to universally love, but he just finished his actual playing career. He has no coaching experience whatsoever. He's a really good golfer, but what were your first thoughts when you heard the name Joe Pavelski had made the Final 5?
I was flabbergasted, like flabbergasted. At no point was his name connected to this job, nor would anyone ever connect his name to this job because of his history, right? He played in San Jose and Dallas, and like you said, he just wrapped up his career, and he has no head coaching experience anywhere close to the professional ranks. So it really is a shock that he's gotten this far. But once the dust settles on, how peculiar, this kind of journey has been to get to a point where Pavelski is in the running, let's presume he gets the job. Who knows if he's going to, but let's just, for argument's sake, say he's going to get it. If he does, it actually won't be that shocking based on the history and clear philosophy of Keith Pelley, the president and CEO of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, where Keith, throughout his career, has always been about being bold, taking a risk, making a splash, and he just did that with John Chayka. Like, there is an element of deja vu here, Jay. Obviously, we're talking about a coach, and yes, Chayka does have GM experience in the NHL, but nobody was talking about John Chayka 3 months ago. Nobody at any point around the league, let alone connected to the Maple Leafs GM job, and he ended up getting that job because Pelly wanted to be bold and he wanted to take this in a different direction. And if Pavelski gets the head coaching job, that'll be a clear trickle-down effect of that. And it's difficult to have an opinion on what kind of coach he'd be because we don't know him well enough from that standpoint, with that lens in mind. What kind of system is he going to run? Is he an X's and O's guy? Is he a motivator? Is he a communicator? What kind of staff is he going to bring with him? So there's so much unknown that goes into it. But I think if it ends up happening where Pavelski gets this job, another thing that Keith Pelley, again at the top of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, is clearly trying to do, and it's something I'm very intrigued by, because I don't know if this is going to work. I have no idea if it's going to work. I don't know if Chayka's going to work. I don't know if Pavelski would work as a head coach. But there's always been this sense of, in Toronto, you can't do certain things because the market's too crazy, right? That's been the mentality, right? When in doubt, play it safe. Go get the old school guy who won't be swallowed up by the market and the craziness that is the Toronto Maple Leafs market. So go get Craig Berube. Right? Bring in Mike Babcock. Bring in Brad Treliving and Lou Lamoriello and Brian Burke and Ron Wilson. You go down the list. And what exactly has that done for the last 20-plus years? They've won 2 playoff rounds in 20 years. They haven't been to a conference final in 24 years, in a lot of ways because they've been afraid of their own shadow. They've been afraid of their own market, so to speak. So again, I'm not advocating for Pavelski because I don't know enough about what that would look like as a head coach. But I like the idea of the Leafs finally going down a direction where they say, maybe we're going to think outside the box here and not be afraid of this perception that Toronto's too crazy to ever accept some progressive hire. They just did it with Chayka. The team still exists, right? The building didn't crumble because they hired John Chayka. And if they do it with Pavelski, again, the season will go on. But it's a risk-reward play. Chayka, Pavelski, that's a boom or bust. I don't see a middle ground, Jay. It either works brilliantly, no one saw it coming, and they take this team to the promised land, or it's a complete disaster, and Pelly's probably out, Chayka's out, Pavelski's out, Matthews is long gone, and who the hell knows what this team looks like in 2 or 3 years.
So if Pavelski would be a great example of a progressive hire, maybe the exact opposite of that would be bringing back former Maple Leafs head coach Mike Babcock into the National Hockey League as the new head coach of the Edmonton Oilers. That's what Ryan Rishaug talked about earlier in this show. What was your reaction when you first heard about that potential news on Monday?
Listen, desperate times calls for desperate measures, and the Edmonton Oilers are the most desperate team in the league. They are a ticking time bomb. They have 2 years until the time bomb goes off, and they need to find a way to find the right combination to, I guess, defuse that bomb, so to speak, which is McDavid leaving in 2 years. And let's be clear here. When you look at what's happening with other players around the league, it won't just be McDavid, right? Draisaitl probably puts his hand up, too, and says, check, please. We've tried it here long enough. It's not going to work. So was I surprised Babcock's name was out there or linked to the Oilers? Yes. Does it come with immense amounts of baggage? Absolutely. Is it a gamble? Yes. But they're desperate. And I think what's clear here is McDavid and Draisaitl have signed off on this, because I've noticed a reaction from Oiler fans and Oiler media, the idea that McDavid would be, flabbergasted by this and outraged by this, as if he wouldn't be along for the ride. It's very simple the way this would work, Jay. One text to McDavid, hey, we're thinking about hiring Mike Babcock. If he writes back no, they ship that to Babcock, say, you're out, they block his number. I mean, he's not getting the job unless McDavid and Draisaitl are on board for this. And clearly, McDavid realizes what has been true for a few years. He needs a championship more than any other pro athlete going in North American sports. Just ahead of Aaron Judge, just ahead Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and honestly, Leon Draisaitl's not that far behind. With every great year Draisaitl puts up, he gets closer and closer to the top of those ranks in terms of all-time great players. So they're willing to put past or look past the baggage that comes with Mike Babcock, and they're banking on the X's and O's and the way he sees the game, the routine that he supplies teams in the past. And I don't care that he's been out of the league for 7 years. I understand he hasn't won a Stanley Cup in a long time, hasn't won a playoff round in a long time. That wouldn't concern me. He's a really good coach. What would concern me is the ego. What happened in Columbus, that was a debacle. The exit in Toronto wasn't great either. It's a big gamble. But as I said, desperate times call for desperate measures. And what it leads me to wonder, Jay, is if they're willing to take this step, go out and hire Mike Babcock because they couldn't get Bruce Cassidy or couldn't get anybody else, what else are they willing to do in the next 2 years to try to push it over the top? How many draft picks are they willing to trade? How many prospects are they willing to trade? Who are they willing to sign that will undoubtedly be long-term pain but might supply a little bit of short-term gain to defuse that bomb I talked about? It's a ticking time bomb 2 years before the window closes for McDavid, probably for Draisaitl as well. I'm surprised, but those players have signed off on it. He's a really good coach. And the reality is, if it works and they win, everyone complaining about it today, they're not going to complain about it if it works out.
You're absolutely correct about that. One of Babcock's former teams, the Detroit Red Wings, dealing with their own issues, of course. Their captain, Dylan Larkin, requested a trade. You and I talked about that last week. Monday, new news comes out from the Detroit Free Press that the three teams Larkin would accept a trade to are the Panthers, Golden Knights, and Wild, to collective eye rolls across the league. I want to show you the players who play for these teams, Bryan. They were also his teammates when he won gold with the U.S. Olympic team in February. Do you believe that's a coincidence?
I don't think so. I mean, it sure feels like the Four Nations and then by extension the Olympic Games, all those great players got together and they said, hey, it's pretty nice down here in Florida. It's pretty nice down in Vegas. I don't know if it's so nice in Minnesota, but you just saw the board. Quinn Hughes is there. Boldy's there. There's a bunch of players that were on that team that are in Minnesota. Bill Guerin was the GM of that American team. He's the GM in Minnesota. So clearly I wouldn't call it collusion, but there was some chatter. I get the impression the same thing happened with Mitch Marner at the Four Nations last year when he got into the room with Mark Stone, right, and others in Vegas and said, hey, this might work out. So I don't think it's a coincidence. I think Matthew Tkachuk is the ringleader, right? He started this a few years ago when he got out of Calgary and went to Florida, and he stepped into a beautiful situation. And he's won 2 cups, and now he's won a gold medal. And yes, Austin Matthews was the captain of that American team, but it sure feels like Matthew Tkachuk was the voice box of that team and the glue of that team. So I don't think it's a coincidence, but there's only so many spots in Vegas, in Florida, right? And there's a hard cap. So not everyone can go down there, but it does seem like a race to try to get to one of those 2 teams. And I guess you can throw Minnesota in there as well because they're very, very good. But again, like I said last week, I'm curious where Steve Yzerman comes into play on this. Because if I'm him, I'm laughing at this. I'm calling up my player and saying, are you crazy? Like, you got to give me 6, 7, 8 teams. And I hope it's inspiring for other teams around the league as well, including a team like Detroit, an original 6, great hockey market. Not everyone can go to Florida. Not everyone can go to Vegas. And do what you can to build programs that are better than those two, right? And be inspired by this around the league because, again, it's not a coincidence. Players love playing in Florida. They love playing in Vegas. They're really good teams, and they've been successful. It's an easy pitch, but it's on the other teams in the league to make it an easy pitch for their own players to stay. So I'm very curious what Yzerman ends up doing. I'm very curious where Larkin lands, and I'm very curious where the other teams in the league end up taking this over the next 2 or 3 years because you can't just put your feet up and say, go ahead, Florida, you get everyone. Go ahead, Vegas, you get everyone. That's not the nature of hockey. That's not the nature of pro sports.
Boy, let's hope the rest of the NHL offseason is exciting as Monday was. This is Hot Takes, and this is Bryan Hayes.
Hot Takes is presented by Harvey's. Summer just got hotter with Harvey's. Burgers, shakes, snacks, and more are all just $3. Harvey's, it's a beautiful thing.